There is no space. There's only now and you when you do that. That is to acknowledge your true state of being. You are eternal and you are not this body.
Hi everyone, I'm Lucas Mack, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution, where inspiration and purpose come from treating people like people and nothing less. You heard it. We have the very powerful Gordana Biernat back on the episode, back on the show today, and we get into some incredibly profound content that I know is going to help you walk in freedom, walk in emotional power, walk in your purpose as we talk about past, present, future, love, fear, and the story that you tell yourself. We talk about quantum physics. I mean, we get into a lot of different topics, and I am so excited to bring you this episode with the one and only Gordana Biernat.
You are the joy going through that body. That's the thing. It's to recognize yourself, your true self in all of these things, to recognize your power, to release what is not you. It's mind-boggling. I've been going through this my whole life, and I encounter new obstacles all the time.
That is
But
so cool.
I had a tweet the other day. I don't know. Are we recording? We are recording.
I just started. Yeah, but we can, whatever.
Okay.
Go. Just.
Yeah, we just go on. Anyways, yeah. I posted a tweet I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before that, where I talk about this, where I say that time is a spiritual learning tool, which means that things stay until you no longer need them. Relationships last until you've explored what you need to explore. Obstacles keep popping up until you've learned what you came here to learn. And you stay until you know what you need to know. And that's it. That is what time is. It doesn't do anything. So if we go back, I mean, time as a spiritual learning tool, which means that as long as you're breathing, your heart is beating, you are learning, which means that you cannot be perfect. You are learning while you are in time and space. And the second thing, that things stay until you no longer need them. Well, this is the thing. Things come and go. You remain. That's the only thing we need. These things, we were just exploring them, but they will come and go. You will remain. That's the truth in that. And the relationships, that they last until you've explored what you need to explore. Well, relationships are not supposed to be managed. They're supposed to be explored so that you will learn what you need to learn about yourself. And a relationship with someone gives you an opportunity to explore a broader perspective of this reality, because you're tuned into another perspective of this reality. That's all it is. When the perspective is no longer serving you, you close that and go over to something else to explore. So that is what the relationships are here for. The obstacles also, they are like tasks here. You're supposed to look at it and figure it out and then release. It's supposed to be fun.
That's cool.
So, I mean, and you stay until you know what you need to know. When you're done here, you leave. And that's it. You leave, which means that this stays here, but you go somewhere else. You are still the constant. You stay the way you are, but you leave this place in order to learn new things you want to learn in another setting. That's what it is. It's really very simple when you look at it this way. So when you get very attached to your past or your future, that is when you cannot explore this reality the way it was supposed to be explored in the now moment here. To know that you are eternal and that the now moment is the only thing that really actually do exist.
So
it's
that is so powerful. Your tweet, I saw that tweet. I saw that tweet. I feel like every tweet that I have seen of yours has been in complete step with everything. Every day I'm like, oh, I needed to hear that exact thing. And and for everyone listening, if you are not following Gordana on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you are missing a huge component of joy in your life and wisdom and beauty and love and serenity. It's such a I just thank you for writing what you write. That tweet, I was like, oh, obstacles
Yep.
are just to learn.
Yes, everything is here for you to learn. And the beauty of forgiveness, because we were talking about
Yes.
forgiving, why forgiveness is such a beautiful thing is because it creates a very, very specific frequency in the now moment. And it becomes holy. The now moment becomes holy because when you forgive, you change the past and you also change the future. That is where the power is. So when you forgive, you go back into the past, you release energetic, spiritual, karmic bonds, which is a huge thing to do.
Yes.
And this is why you need to forgive and to use the past the way it was supposed to be used. It's supposed to make your life here on earth exciting and not perfect, because when it's perfect, it's not exciting. Human beings want things to be not perfect because we want to explore it when it's not perfect. When it's perfect, it's just there. It's not as fun. So you need an imperfect past in order to explore this reality the way you're supposed to explore it as a spirit in a body.
Right.
So when you have these memories and the experiences that might not be as fun and good and nice, then you can go back and release that pain in the now moment.
Right.
Because you've had them. They've formed you. They've molded you. You've had the experience. So releasing it will help you to become who you truly are in the now moment. That is why forgiveness is holy. It really is. You create a holy space around you in time when you forgive.
That is so powerful. I was just teaching at the latest men's retreat that forgiveness does not mean accepting the actions of another. It means loving as if it never happened. Loving them as if it never happened. In Hebrew, the word love is ahava, which means to give. So forgive means to give them love as if it never happened. And which is a beautiful thing. I forgive as if it never happened. And I still know you as you. And then I can choose whether we can be, but I don't hold anything against you. I don't harbor an attachment to that. I'm not anchored to your actions. I forgive as if it's never happened. And I bless you to go on your way. Thank you for that.
Lucas, don't you find it hard to love someone who has hurt you? Because it took a long time for me to get around that one. And I'm talking about my father. I don't know if love is the right word. I know we use it here as a way of forgiving, but I don't know if that is the right word. For me, love is really hard when it comes to my father, but I can feel compassion, and compassion is a different thing for me. When I say I love someone, I would say I love my son, and that feels good when I say it. But I couldn't say something like that about my father, because that means that I have a relationship that is loving towards him, and I don't. But I do feel compassion when I look at it and I see. A way for me to feel compassion is to say that if he had known better, he would have done better. So it means that he did his best, which means that I can release myself from hatred because I know that he did his best. That doesn't mean I have to love him, but I can still feel compassion for him. And that's a different thing. I think compassion is a higher frequency than love, actually. Truly, I do.
That is first of all, I love you and I thank you, and I do love you.
I love you too.
I think that is loving, to show compassion in a weird way. I think one of the things I've learned on my path is we can be loving, but not love every person. And there's not and I don't think those are contradicting. I mean, you showing compassion is showing love. is loving him,
Mm.
but it's not the same investment in him as it is your
Yes.
son.
Mm.
Completely logical, because those relationships aren't equal. They're not the same. And I've
Mm.
also learned that I can be trusting, but not everyone's worthy of my trust. And I can be loving, not everyone's
Mm.
worthy of my
Yes.
investment in them. But I would say you be
Yes.
showing compassion, which I do think is the highest. And when I say compassionate, what I say in podcasts that I've been saying lately, I said at the men's retreat, if I grew up in your shoes, would I be any different than you? And if you grew up in my shoes, if I grew up in your dad's shoes, if I grew up in my dad's shoes, would I be any different than him? No, I can't say that about anyone. All I can say is they are on their path. We've encountered each other, and then I bless you to continue down your path. And we shall not, our paths shall not
Yes.
intertwine any longer. And that, I really do think you saying finding compassion is love. It's not that we have to, because if it means anything other than just finding compassion, that's how the word love becomes a weapon. Well, do you love them? Well, what do you mean? Just submit back under that authority, that manipulation, that abuse, that control, that power structure.
Mm.
That's not love even of myself.
Mm.
And it's certainly not loving them, because if I submitted back under that power structure, I wouldn't be able to mirror to them their unhealthy behavior.
Mm.
And so me loving them is to separate and say, your behavior is completely antithetical to love. Therefore, I love you enough to show you that it is. That's how I look at
Yes,
it anyway,
absolutely.
versus like,
Yes.
because I know what you mean. It's a transgression against our own soul to get back in that place.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes love is to say no.
That's right.
Really, sometimes love is to say no. It might be on a spiritual level. I know that by experience with my father. I know that saying no to him, he wouldn't be able to get the experience that he came here to get unless I would have said no. We would just be perpetuating each other's bad sides in this reality if one of us didn't say no. And I said no. I don't want this anymore. This ends with me. I'm not going to allow this through me into this world anymore, even if it means to say no to my father and say, no, I'm not going on this path anymore with you. And that might feel like, okay, so you have a problem. I don't. I actually don't. I just have set a boundary, which is a healthy boundary, and I don't need to go beyond that boundary. I can forgive, I can have compassion, but I do this in my own. I do not need to go over that boundary again, because when I do that, I go back in patterns which were ingrained in me when I was a child, and I'm reinforcing that behavior again. And that's not to help that person. That is actually to make it worse for them.
Right, right. It's words have been weaponized, and these words, forgiveness, love, relationship, child, parent, family, all friends, all these words have become weaponized. And I think the reality is, like we talked about, first of all, our podcast that we've done together, part 1, 2, this will be 3 and 4. Who knows how many people I've never gotten more positive feedback than our conversations. And one of the things that people talked about, we talked about, if it's true, you can breathe more deeply. You can, that is the only barometer, thermometer, gauge that we need to live by. If we can breathe more deeply and expansive, then we know that this is the right thing. But anything that constricts, and that's when these words become weaponized. What do you forget? What do you actually mean? Do you want me to absolve them of their criminal behavior? I will not. However, I will forgive them as if it never happened. I don't hold them. I'm not going out to indict them. I'm not going after them. That is the greatest love I can show that person, is not to go after that person. And that truly is loving. It's like these parents that their child's killed by someone. Then you hear this mother like forgives it's like, whoa, she's not saying don't convict this person. She's not saying don't go to prison. She's not saying don't have the sentence on your life that the judge gives. She's just simply saying, go on your way. I don't hold that account against you any longer. And it's no different in a court of law versus the universal law that we live under. And this is what I want people to know. This is why I'm so glad. It was funny. I was setting the intentions for our conversation, and I just want to get into the depths of love with you. Like, what is this love? And here we are talking about all these components and facets in this big dance. And when fear takes on the name love, that is the greatest abuse of mankind. It really is. And that's what I think we're saying or experiencing from these people.
Yes, absolutely. And you talk about words being weaponized. Every time you hear you should have or would have or could have, this will not allow you to breathe. It doesn't matter what you should have, could have, would have. What matters is what you do with it in the now moment. That's it. That's the only thing that matters.
Yes.
So that kind of words is actually like shooting, exactly the way you describe it. It's like shooting at you and you have to dodge them. That will not allow you to breathe freely. So I think that, as you said, the measurement of how close to your own truth you are does it allow me to breathe? If it doesn't, that's not my truth. I need to find my truth in this.
Right.
And since you are a kind person, you know that you will find the right thing. You know that so I need to shift my perspective. I need to change my behavior. I need to think differently, whatever it is.
Yes.
You know that it is within you and that you can control it.
Yes.
As long as the result of what you're doing is supposed to be more love. And that doesn't always mean to go back in an abusive relationship to save the other one.
Right.
Maybe you've done all you can to save the other person, and that person does not want to be saved by you.
Right.
And you know when the time is to say, no, I need to close that door. That is what it is. Right. And forgive them from within. I mean, that doesn't mean that you close the door and when that person comes back and says, I am truly, truly illuminated now. I can see what I did and I regret it so much that you can release them in the now moment. But you're not actively going to seek that with that person.
That's so good.
That's my...
Yes.
And that's why I feel like especially when you do work like I do, I mean, I do spiritual work. I am illuminating my own reality and other people's reality. And when they ask me, well, so you didn't have a relationship with your father, how does that work while being a spiritual teacher? And I go, it works perfectly well because on a spiritual level, I've forgiven him.
Yes.
But I don't need to do it in this setting because it is hurtful. There's lack of trust. Yes. And I cannot allow that back into my reality. That's as simple as that.
That's it.
That's as simple as that. I never allow myself to be shamed into something like that. A spiritual person is also a human being, and we are in a world of polarities, which means that there are still things that I need to explore in this world of polarities. So I can't allow a frequency which has been hurtful to come back to my reality and pull me back into a state of not knowing who I am.
Right.
No, I feel like the forgiveness is not about doing it physically with the other person. Forgiveness is about doing it where you are with yourself in the now moment.
Yes, that's right.
That's how it works.
I tell on these men's retreats, I talk about legacy. And I said, every person's leaving a legacy, whether that legacy is good or whether that legacy is not good. And what I define as not good and bad, right and wrong. What I say is a true legacy is the impact we make in the lives of others. So we're all leaving a legacy in that regard, whether we're leaving a positive or negative impact in the lives of others. That will be our legacy.
Yes. Yes.
And I said it's made up of 5 components: your primary relationship with your spouse or partner or self. If you're not in relationship with anyone else, then truly being in relationship with yourself, loving yourself. And if you are in relationship with another person, are you worthy of that person's love, as opposed to what are they doing? No, what are you doing? And then as a parent, as a father, stewarding, and if they don't have children, stewarding the next generation. Are they going out, and if they don't have kids, are they helping the next generation be a healthy generation? Then working on their body, their mind, body, and soul. Their 4th is career, and it's always career as number 4. I say, and a career must be a means to a greater end. And your end must be the legacy that you leave behind. Do you see your work as a means to make a greater impact in the world? It has to be that. And the last thing is friends. Your friends that you bring around you, and friends I define as people who show you unconditional love, which become our family. We actually get to choose who family is to us.
Yes. Yes.
This is the most empowering, freeing. These men are like, and I say, are you worthy of someone calling you a family? Are you worthy of being called friend? Are you, are you loving, giving, caring, inspiring others to be their best version of themselves? This is legacy. And I think this concept of obligation and guilt, and apart from unconditional love, is where I think the majority of the world is trapped under this veil, and they don't know how to be free. That's why this message, that's why you and your content, and even just getting to co-create with you and dance with you in this podcast is so beautiful, because this is helping people, just these words, and it's okay wherever they're at to know in the now moment they can choose something completely different.
Absolutely. I think that what we're talking about here in a broader perspective is to look at your life and figure out if you are living in a thought-based system or a love-based fear-based system or a love-based thought system. Because if you're living in a fear-based thought system, which both you and I were born into, that means that when you can dodge fear, you think that is happiness. So you go around, and this leads you to interpret the outer reality as dangerous, as there is always some kind of danger. You do not trust the outer reality, so you stay within. You cannot share yourself with the outer reality. If you live, on the other hand, in a love-based thought system, you will know that everything is okay. You can make mistakes. Nobody's going to punish you for them. So you know that happiness is not dodging fear. Happiness is actually actively seeking out joy, actively seeking out what makes you happy. And when you come from an abused family, you don't know how to do that, because you do not have the templates in your head. You have not been brought up with that environment, or you cannot mimic that and that way of living, because your parents didn't do so. I mean, in school, they teach you that a fear-based perspective is the right perspective of reality, that you have to control everything, that there are mistakes to be made, and you should be punished if you make the mistakes. But as long as you have a family which operates from a love-based thought system, you will be able to manage the outer reality later on, school and everything else, because you have that grounding, that base where you stand, and that is love. So that is when you are a parent. When I became a parent, when I became a parent, I realized that I must change my entire thought system. I need to connect my thoughts to my heart and ask myself, what is this? You were talking about the relationship, the most important relationship. Well, the most important relationship I have is with myself,
Yes.
because it's my thoughts. I
Yes.
am speaking to myself day in and day out. And if I'm telling myself it's a dangerous world, oh, you dodged fear, happiness is here, then of course I'm not going to live the right way. And of course I'm going to leave that to my children.
Mm.
That is going to be my impact on the world. So I need to become very well aware of what is it? What kind of thought system am I in?
Yes.
Does it allow me to breathe? If it doesn't,
Yes.
I assure you it's a fear-based thought system you're in. Most of us live in this fear-based thought system because everything out there is reminding us of the fears and dangers everywhere.
Mm.
And the truth is, that's not how this reality works. It
You,
doesn't.
that is so brilliant. The dodging fear is,
Or seeking joy, yes.
yeah, or it's seeking joy, and dodging the fear is not happy. Yes, in that parameter, the only happiness you find is not getting hit with that fear, but that's not happiness.
Yes,
I would,
because happiness becomes the release from fear.
mm,
That the release from fear is happiness, but that is not the
that
truth.
is
I
not
mean, the truth
expansive
is when
happiness, right?
you
That's right.
yes,
Jesus said, he said
because
something, he said,
yeah,
unless you become like a little child, you shall not enter the kingdom of
yes,
heaven. And
yes,
what that means in the pureness, apart from fear, children want to explore that. We're
yes,
this whole system of striking children verbally, physically when they're exploring
mm,
is so egregious. I mean, not
yeah,
communicating, loving, holding, saying, was this loving? Like, where did this come from? How did, what did you experience when you did? It's the whole system's fear-based. And you made me think of, I would say the majority of humanity would say, if you ask them, are you a good person? I I bet most people would say yes. And then I ask, well, what
mhm,
makes you good? Not hurting someone, not killing, not stealing, that's not being a good person. That's not doing bad. Doing good is loving and exploring and
yes,
standing and being
yes,
and
yes,
having compassion. And that's good. Not
mm,
doing bad is not the only part of
yes,
good. Doing
exactly,
good is the part of
exactly.
good.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And that's why this shows me that that kind of person lives in a fear-based thought system. And there's
Mm,
nothing wrong with people living that way. I mean, most of us do that. So it's just about recognizing it and shifting it, changing it. What happens when you're born into an abusive family or have some other things happening to you in your past that changes your way of trusting life
yeah.
is that you stop being authentic because you are afraid to
Mm,
show your authentic self. So the first thing that happens is that you need to
mm,
look for, am I authentic? Why am I not authentic? If I'm not, then why am I not authentic? Not give yourself guilt because, okay, so
mm,
I'm a fake. That's not about that. It's not about being a fake. It's about not exploring who you are as a child because you are punished when you do so. And
mm.
I have these 3 steps where you go through. Just realizing these 3 steps makes you come closer to who you truly are, your authentic self. And the first thing for me is stop comparing yourself to others. Now,
Yes.
you might ask yourself, why are we comparing ourselves to others? Because your parents told you, well, that guy or that girl is a good girl or a good boy. Why
Yes.
can't you be like them? And then
Right.
you go to school and they say, you have to be like everyone else, otherwise, there's something wrong with you. So if you're not like them, you made a mistake
Right.
or you don't have a value. You are only valued when you're compared to someone else. You have no value on your own.
Right.
That is not the truth. You are worthy of everything. The minute you start breathing, you are worthy, even before that. But in this world, if you start breathing, you are worthy of everything. So you
Mm,
don't need a validation from the outside. And yet, you're compared to everyone else. How do you compare people with each other when every single one of us is unique? It's impossible. You cannot compare anyone to anyone. It's just that the way it is. And yet we live in a society that compares everyone to everyone. So of course, the first thing you need to do is stop comparing yourself. And then you have to step out of your comfort zone. Dare to make mistakes. That is what it is when you say step out of your comfort zone, because that is a cliche. I wonder even what is a comfort zone? There's nothing comfortable about it.
Right.
There's
Right.
nothing comfortable about a comfort zone because
yeah, right.
yes, frustration zone more.
Yes, right.
Like, but anyways, we call it comfort zone. So you have to step out of your comfort zone. Why are we not stepping out of our comfort zone? Because we do not dare to make mistakes. Every time you make a mistake in this world, you are punished. In school, when you make a mistake, you're punished. Now, I ask myself, what is a mistake? There are no mistakes. Everything is feedback. So if you live in a love-based thought system, they would teach you that everything is feedback. So this wasn't so good. Let's do it in a different way the next time. That allows you to explore things outside of your comfort zone, which means that you will learn new things about yourself and you will know who you are much easier. And the last thing is start being you. Follow your excitement. I mean, usually when you followed your excitement as a child and someone shamed you for it because it was different from everyone else, you were forced by that shame to conform and to comply to things that you might not have wanted. And that's when you start putting on masks. So the three things, it's really easy. Stop comparing yourself to others. Step out of your comfort zone because there are no mistakes, only feedback. And the last thing is start being you. Follow your excitement regardless of what others say to you. So that's how you shift from being in a fear-based thought system into a love-based thought system and trust yourself all the time while you do it. I promise you, you will breathe. It will allow you to breathe so much.
That is so beautiful. That step 2 is being courageous. It takes and courage is acknowledging fear and doing it anyway. It's not, and I heard, I went to this training. It was beautiful. And this guy said, the United States, the highest honor that they can give a military member in the United States is the Congressional Medal of Honor. That medal is for courage in the battlefield. It's not for fearlessness in the battlefield. He said, fearless people are dangerous people. Those are sociopaths. Those are people that have no concept of what is presently in front of them. But the courageous person says, here's the comfort zone. I'm going to step out. And in that courage, they find, this is why I define vulnerability as having the courage to experience love in its purest form. That love is on the other side of that comfort zone. Love is on the other side of that barrier. And you and I talked one time that a dog or we were talking about Untethered Soul. Untethered Soul talks about the electric fence, and the dog feels that shock and doesn't go, it could go through that shock. It's not going to kill the dog, but the dog gets trained to, there's a shock. But on the other side of that fake barrier, it's freedom. It's freedom.
Yes, it is. I mean, when you talk about courage, I was thinking about Forrest Gump. You know, when he ran back and forth in Vietnam, saving all these people.
Yes.
Because he didn't realize the danger in this. What he knew was that he needed to save people out of love. He needed to save, who was it? Bubba. He wanted to save Bubba. Yes. Bubba. So the love for Bubba made him run back and forth, back and forth, back and forth the way he did. And in our society, we would say, well, that's a crazy person. Well, actually, no, that's not a crazy person.
Right. That's Mother Teresa.
Because he is so focused on love. That is why this film is so amazing, because it's all about being focused on love. He never, ever loses that focus. Everything can happen around him, but he is always focused on love. I love
That's
it.
so
And the
beautiful.
courage to stay focused on the essential thing in this reality. That
Wow.
is the courage it takes. I mean, what if, let's say that you feel like you're not a courageous person because you've always been punished as a child, or you didn't have a great childhood, or whatever it is, and you feel like you're not a courageous person. You are actually a very courageous person because you're breathing and you're alive
Mm,
regardless of what happened
mm,
to you.
that's right.
That per definition makes you a courageous person. Only your courage is not seen because it's done in the home, in your heart. Every time you helped yourself out of misery, every time you helped yourself out of emotional darkness as a child, that is courageous.
That's so good.
So courage is it shows you who you are. Courage
Right.
shows you who you are always, who
Yes.
you truly are, not
Yes.
who they've taught you to be, who you truly are, the urges you truly have in this reality. That is what courage shows you.
So good. Oh, courage.
Mm.
Courage. I just got back a couple weeks ago from this men's retreat, another retreat, and we had I had a 60-year-old man in there. I had the youngest being early 30s, and I had this Los Angeles police officer.
Mhm.
Had it up, tough, like really. He's like, some people don't even know I'm a police officer, just the way he looks. He's a tough guy.
Mm.
Um, and it was beautiful. I literally saw him look like a baby, but I mean, a brand new newborn baby by the end of this retreat. He was
Mm.
soft. He was glowing. And one of the
Mm.
things that was really transformative for him, as I was teaching these guys, there's all this narrative, and I'm reading some books right now that it frustrates me, but it's not in frustration of anger. It's like, it makes me sad, this death of ego narrative. And there's so much of this
Mm.
death of ego. And I told these men, I said, if you hate your ego, that is like hating
Mm.
your foot or your arm. Your ego is you. It protected your innocence. When was the last time you thanked your ego for keeping your soul intact, pure, and just loved it?
Mm.
And now you don't have to live under it anymore. You can
Mm.
say to your innocent soul, okay, you can be back in this body. I have acknowledged that I am here. Talking about courage, I've been courageous. I've come to this point to say,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to take my
Mm.
armor off because I don't need my armor. Someday I might need my armor
Mm.
again, and put your armor back on. I told him it's not to get rid of it.
Mm.
You have it, but you don't need it right now. And your little boy, your innocence can come back into you. And it was so, talk about a holy moment just to see these men have their little, like, get connected with that little boy, the innocence, the explorer, the
Mhm.
laughter, just the beauty of their innocent self was so amazing to see. And when you're talking about being courageous, you're right. We're all courageous just because we're still here every day. We're going, but
Yes.
to expand that courageousness into
Mm.
unfettered territory, or whatever, I don't even know the term,
Mm.
new territory. That's
Yeah.
where living really is. It's in those,
Mm.
oh, what other electric fence is there and I can cross that? Oh, what other, oh, I can
Yes.
cross that. I can cross all electric
Yes.
fences, It's
Yes, exactly. That is what living here means. Actually, it means to dare to cross all these
yeah.
fences and walls and stuff that we have made in this reality. You know something, when you were talking about the officer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and him being vulnerable and saying that, I mean, it takes courage to be vulnerable. Yes, it does. It does take courage to be vulnerable, because if you want to be vulnerable in this reality, we have created a society which is based on fear. We
Yes.
cannot deny this. It is
Yes.
based, our thought system is based on fear. So when you're in this reality and you need to think quickly, like an officer needs to do, how do you connect to that vulnerability? How do you give yourself time to be courageous enough to say, wait a minute, it might not be as I think it is right now? To not uh, act habitually to
Yes.
things, to
Yes.
become more aware, to start looking at them from different perspectives. It stops you, because everything in this reality, it's supposed to be done fast, and you need to evaluate things in a fast way, specifically when you work for like a
Yeah.
police
Law
officer.
enforcement.
You
Yes.
need to
Right.
think quickly. And if you start thinking about what is it, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? It stops you. So you need time.
Hmm.
And to give yourself time is a courageous thing in that environment. To give
Yes.
yourself time to think,
Yes.
because you want to make the right action. You don't want to make a habitual action to a fear based world.
Right. Right.
And that's what I think, that might be what his problem actually is. It's not about him not knowing what is right and what is wrong and him being ego. It's more about him allowing his soul through the filter of the ego to make the right decision in this reality.
Yes.
And
That's
how do you know what's right decision if you're making it habitually? You're actually asleep when you make it habitually.
right.
So
That's
becoming more courageous is about waking up.
waking up. Yes.
Becoming more courageous is literally about waking up and seeing things as if they were for the first time,
Right.
and ask yourself, is this really true what I'm looking at right now?
Right. That narrative is so profound. It was profound when you talked about being in a dream or a nightmare. People are asleep, and
Mhm.
some people choose to wake up in the nightmare and continue the nightmare, and some people wake up in a dream and continue the dream, but some people are asleep. It's a really beautiful concept. Can you explain
Mm,
that more? I've never forgotten that, but
mm,
I don't know if I could articulate it as beautiful as you can, but
mm,
just being
mm.
awake into the nightmare. And
Yes, and again, to come back to this fear-based thought system, I look at my own past. Um, I was always in fear because my life was so dependent on how my father felt and
hmm,
how his moods were and how his day had been. So it was out of my control all the time.
hmm,
And since the way I see this reality, we are all dreaming this reality into being
hmm,
by our imagination. And there is another tweet that I know that you reacted to, and it was about time, because I write in this tweet that in every now moment, you are creating your present with what you believe, your past with what you remember, and your future with what you imagine. So now is your point of power, and it's always now. And if it is like that, and I think it is, then per definition, we are literally imagining this reality into being
hmm,
by our thoughts, emotions, and actions. I am the imaginer imagining this world, and so are you, and we are the co creators of this world. So we are all dreaming this world into being.
yes,
Now, some of us choose to be in a nightmare when we enter this world because we choose spiritually to explore fear here.
hmm,
And I feel like my father chose that.
yes, yes, yes,
So he was always in a nightmare. And since I was dependent as a child on him, I was in his nightmare. I
hmm,
couldn't dream I had my daydreams, but I was always pulled back, gravitationally pulled back into his nightmare. And the
yes,
minute I could release myself from that nightmare, I decided that I was going to dream a dream, not a
hmm,
nightmare. I wanted my life to become a dream, and it is a dream now
yes,
because I control it the way I created the way I wanted, not what I don't want in my reality. I stand in a place where I choose what I want instead of being focused on what I don't want. So the difference between living your dream or your nightmare is actually what kind of thoughts you're allowing to manifest through you into this reality, what kind of emotions you're allowing to manifest through you in this reality, what kind of actions you're doing and spreading that in this reality. And that's the difference between the nightmare and the dream. Some people never wake up from the nightmare. They live their life in the nightmare and they die in it. And I could say that my father did that, even though there were so many opportunities for him to leave the nightmare. But the nightmare, in a way, became his way of being in this reality. It's like a mind prison. You can't jump out of it. And in that nightmare, there is disbelief, distrust, disbelief and distrust that everything is okay. That's the basis of this. And that's why I say I can look at it and feel compassion for him when I see what a nightmare he was in and in the end couldn't pick himself out of. So we call it mental illness maybe in our reality. I would say that it is a nightmare that is being played in your mind and you can't jump out of it. It is there. And you think this is the real world, the real reality, that everyone is living in that nightmare when it is not that way. So that's what I mean by talking about a nightmare and a daydream or a dream. As soon as you can breathe, as soon as you feel that you want to share love, you are tapped into a dream, your dream.
Yes.
As soon as you feel fear, as soon as you feel that you can't breathe, then you're tapped into someone's nightmare, which is not your true state of being. It is something that you're tapped into. Maybe it's a reaction to something that comes from the outside, and it pulls you into that nightmare.
Right.
So being aware of that can help you to go back to the state, which is your true state, the dream you're dreaming.
Made me think of politics. I used to be addicted to politics. I was a political junkie. And I mean, any moment I was listening to the news. And that shaped my world, that everything was so intense and it was the final moment of life at all times and the world's coming to an end. And when I unplugged from that, what filled that space was peace. What filled that place was calmness and a stillness. And that has also given me awareness of what else do I need to unplug from. There's a lot of things that I'm just plugged in automatically. And I actually, now that we're talking, I'm going to get out after this podcast. I'm really going to reflect. What am I still plugged into that I don't need to be plugged into, that I'm choosing to be plugged into, and I'm feeling that frequency, and I don't want that frequency. I want peace. I want joy. I want love. I want good in this world. I want to see good in this world. And I think there's some frequencies I'm still plugged into. I think the religious frequency, I think the job frequency, career frequency, the employment frequency, all these frequencies are like, it doesn't mean I don't still vote or work or but I don't have to be plugged into the frequencies.
Yes, absolutely. You know, something I was thinking about this when you said, I reacted, since English is not my first language, I react to the language in a different way. And you said that when I was plugged into the news or the politics, you said, and it shaped my world.
Yes.
Listen to the words, shaped. Literally, it shaped your world, because that's what I'm saying when I say that we are dreaming this world into being. It's a lucid dream. Some things we are aware of that we're creating, other things we are not aware of that we're creating, but it's still a dream, something that is made through your imagination. So if you have some frequency that you're tapped into, let's say it is politics, of course it will shape your world. mold it, shape it, create it. That is what it does, which means that when you're tapped into that frequency, you are not tapped into your frequency, which means that you're creating a world that is not yours, but
Mm.
someone else's world. That's why you find yourself lost, because you have literally allowed it to be created through you, even though it's not your frequency. That is why you need to ask yourself, who am I? What is my frequency? What is it that I want to dream into being here? Also, I mean, and this is a very revolutionary thought, which I have been playing around in my head because I talk everywhere about leadership and how we need good leaders. And it dawned upon me some years ago that when you know who you are, you do not need a leader.
Yes.
So knowing who you
Yes.
are makes all the leaders kind of not needed anymore. Because when you know who you are,
So good.
you're operating from an awakened state of being, and you know what is right and wrong, because we all come from the same source. We really do. We come from unconditional love. That is our source.
Yes.
When you know who you are, well, then of course you know what's right and wrong. You don't need anyone to tell you this. You know that. So when we know who we are, we don't need any leaders. We won't even need to, I mean, politics becomes nothing in that sense.
Right.
Because we know who we are. And that's a revolutionary thought.
It's powerful. I affirm it.
Yes.
I support it. I love it. I agree with it.
That is
That's why
why
this is the
we are
Golden
all
Rule Revolution. You can be a revolutionary on this podcast. It's beautiful.
Yes, and this is why I feel. I mean, where is my book? Here it is. Know the truth. Why knowing who you are changes everything. It does change everything, because when you know who you are, you do not need anyone else to tell you what's right and wrong, because you will do it per definition. I'm not saying that people who say, I know who I am, actually do know who they are. When I say knowing who you are means to understand what your source is.
Yes.
And that source is always unconditional love. Now, how we choose to explore this world is different for each and every one of us. What differs me from you is my desires and your desires.
Yes.
And my ego is the container of those desires.
Right.
As long as I know that I am unconditional love, spirit, exploring this reality through this body, I can use my ego to explore things that I desire to explore here.
Yes. That is so good. Yes. Yes.
But it has to come from an unconditionally loving source. Unless you know that, your ego becomes your driving force, and that will never create a great reality here. That creates fear and the need for leaders and the need for all these things that we have in this reality, politics and whatever.
Right. So beautiful.
So knowing who you are, knowing that you are unconditional love, that is your source, and that your desires here are held by your ego. That's a first step in changing the world.
So good. Oh, one of these days we're just gonna hang out and just really. Love this. I love you. You are. I share this with every single person that I talk about with you. I've done some powerful things that have transformed my life. Having you in my life has been as transformative as some of those really intense, like 5-day emotional intelligence trainings. I am so thankful for you. And it is so wild how I even know you, how I'm even looking at you right now. It's so amazing. And so like, you're such a gift. You're such a gift to this world. You're such a gift to me. I'm so thankful for you. I just, just know that. And I do.
I know it. We are spiritually connected. And I truly, I know this. I can feel it. We have conscious conversations that are on a very high level, and I feel the exchange of energy between us. So I totally, totally understand what you're saying, and I'm so grateful for having you in my reality. I'm actually very grateful for the technology, which is allowing
Yes.
me to
Yes.
have this conversation with you, because
Yes.
you're in the US and I'm in Sweden. We would never meet unless
Right.
technology would allow this.
Yes.
So
Right.
there are some good things with the
Yeah,
technology.
that's right. That's right.
You know,
Oh,
I wanted you to think of a number, and we'll play with my book just as an ending to this
okay. Beautiful.
conversation today.
Okay.
So the numbers are from 1 to 231. And give me a number and I'll read it for you.
Okay. 87. That's the number. 87.
87. Let's see if I can. Let's see now. 87. Here we go. And there it is. It's about change. Let's see here. I need to put on my glasses. Let's see here. Here we go. Truth thought number 87. Like martial art, one more time. Like martial arts masters, we need to dance with creation by allowing what we like and diverting what we don't like in the flow of constant change.
Wow,
And it's beautiful.
that's what we're just
It's about
talking
what we have been talking about.
about. Oh,
Oh, it's here I'll have to read the rest for you. Just a few more sentences
please.
in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So, in this way, change becomes not just a goal to reach, but a tool for you to use so you can grow in your consciousness and see more facets of who you are. It becomes something you actually are in the present moment, not just something you plan for and make happen in the future. Instead of doing, change becomes a natural state of being. And here are some simple things to follow if you want to create an atmosphere in which change is smoothly allowed without the friction of doubt and resistance. And that's truth thought number 88, because it goes together here. Know yourself, trust yourself, interact honestly with others, focus on the solutions, and always look for the best in others. And this is a very easy way to start an avalanche of positive change without any effort. We have been talking about this to change from a fear-based thought system into a love-based thought system. It's about allowing that change and staying in that love frequency or compassionate frequency, or knowing that you are the unconditional love incarnated in this reality. When you know that, all of these things just miraculously change.
Awesome.
What a beautiful number you chose. I love that. That's such a beautiful ending.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being you, Lucas. Thank you.
As always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Gordana, for coming on. You know I love you, and your presence, your voice is only continuing to grow, and I'm honored to help in a small part bring your voice to the world. My friends, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this movement, the Golden Rule Revolution, treating people like people and nothing less. I have a challenge for you. I challenge you to use your voice in love, to use your voice in expressing that which you have gone through, and tell yourself, what are you telling yourself? What default is your narrative saying? Are things hard? Do you use the word should or have to, or I have to do, something, whatever? Or is everything a get to? Is everything a gift? Are you grateful? Are you saying beautiful things about yourself, that you're lovely, you're lovable, you're wonderful, you're powerful, you're beautiful? Whatever it is that you're saying becomes your reality. So I encourage you and I challenge you to change what and how you speak of yourself, and speak beautifully of yourself. Speak blessings over your life, over your thoughts, over your body, over your being. And when you live in that, that's how you get to speak blessings in every person you come in contact with. So it's my challenge and my encouragement. I'm so honored and thankful that you listened. Happy 2020. the month of February. We're kicking it off with Gordana. Next week, I'm going to bring the very first Orthodox rabbi in history who has publicly come out about the sexual abuse he encountered. And it is such a powerful episode. I'm excited to bring that to you. We got a lot of great things coming. The Golden Rule Revolution. I'm honored that you listen. Please subscribe and download, share this podcast, share these episodes. You can find the content on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever there's podcast episodes, you can find this content. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I am sharing specific content in those channels where you can engage and join the conversation. Also, if you're a man or you know a man who is looking to just break free from the chains that are holding him back, from the things that are holding him back, I host a men's retreat 4 times a year. The dates for the next 2 are posted. Only 6 men go through this retreat at a time. It is so powerful. You can look at the testimonials and hear from guys who have gone through. If you know someone or you are someone looking for freedom, sign up, apply today to be part of the Vulnerable Hero Men's Retreat and Legacy Experience, because we are helping men redefine and recalibrate the legacy that they're going to leave in this world. It's a beautiful thing. Join, sign up, follow. Thank you, my friends. I will talk to you next week.